Someone
This
please
conference
confirm
will now be recorded.
if my screen is visible. Is it visible, guys?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So let us move on. So yesterday we were talking about strings. So we are going to dive a lot deeper into strings because this is something that is very fundamental piece of JavaScript. So let's say I have created a string called song and I've given this particular value. I can give it any value. Value is not important. The concept that I'm trying to teach you is. So if I let's say want to extract the first character, I can write song of zero and make sure that we are writing this in square brackets. So it means I'm trying to access the zeroth or the zeroth index. Zeroth index is actually the first element of the string. And if I'll do song of one, it means I'm trying to extract the second element. Okay, so looks like somebody is okay.
Actually, your voice is echoing. Echo there.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay, but this I'm not sure actually. My audio is perfectly. Can someone please confirm? Is my voice echoing?
No, Piyush. Actually, I think Nick has joined from the two systems, and that's why maybe he's getting the
Oh,
echo.
yes, Nick, I see you are logged in from two devices, so maybe it could be an issue from your side, but somehow my voice is absolutely clear as confirmed by Ganesh as
Okay,
well.
okay, wait. I will disconnect and reconnect.
Yeah, sure, you can disconnect and reconnect. Okay, right. So, moving back to this. So, this is what I was telling you. So, we can access any index of this particular string by passing any index. And yeah, if I try to pass up any particular index that is not present, then it returns what? It returns undefined. And somebody was asking me this. Okay, now we'll talk about the concept of strings are immutable. So, what do I mean by strings are immutable? It means if this is a string, I cannot change it. For example, I can give you a very simple example. So I'll copy this, I'll come back to my browser and I'll clear the console and I'll type like this. So this is a one string called song. And then what I'm trying to do is I'm doing something like this, song of zero. And instead of capital S, this time I'm giving it a small s value actually, like this. So do you think now song should be changed now? It should have this small circle. Uh, okay, right. So if I try to do this song now, see the value is still capital S. This is what I'm trying to say. I cannot modify my existing string, but of course I can do some certain operations. For example, if I do something like song dot to lowercase, what it is going to do, it is simply going to convert this entire string to lowercase. How do I do? Simply use these parentheses. As I was telling you, for any JavaScript method, always make sure to use parentheses. See, it has converted into a lowercase string, but this original string is still there, right? And what I'm doing is I'm just converting it to a lowercase string, but I'm not assigning it back to this variable. So the song variable is still the same. See, song variable is still holding this one, right? I'm just converting it to a lowercase. So what is happening is I'm creating a new string in JavaScript. So the same concept holds true, that strings are immutable. I cannot modify an existing string, and even if I try to do something like this, it is not going to work. JavaScript is not going to throw an error, but this string will never be changed. So this is the meaning of strings are immutable in JavaScript. Okay, and yes, if I want to fetch the last character of the string, how do I do? In order to fetch any character, firstly I have to use these angle brackets or square brackets, whatever you can call. How do I fetch the last character? Either I can pass a hard coded index, which is not the right way. What can I do? I can do song.length. Song.length is going to give me what? It is going to give me the length of the string, right? But why it is returning undefined? It is because I have to use -1, because indexing starts from 0, right? So this last character can be safely accessed using this particular syntax. So you can fetch the last character of any string using this. Whatever is the variable name, simply inside these angle brackets use variable name dot length and make sure that you are using -1. Okay, so next we are going to learn about some very important string methods. Okay, so we are learning some string methods, and this is something that is used very frequently, especially in automation with Cypress. So what do I mean by methods? Strings come with a set of built-in methods, means these methods are already provided by JavaScript. I have not written them, they are already available and we can simply use them. So we can do things like we can search within a string, or maybe we can replace a some parts of a string, or maybe we can even change the case, maybe lowercase to uppercase or uppercase to lowercase. I just shown you one example, right? That we can convert one string to an entirely lowercase. Similarly, we have a method called song dot to uppercase, and it is very simple to use. Simply use this. Right. So of course you'll be requiring a little practice, otherwise you'll forget these methods. So using this method is very simple. Just use the variable name, use a dot, and this method name with parentheses. That is how you can call any method in JavaScript. Right. So this is something that we have just learned. Right. So how do we call? The syntax is very, very simple. Simply use the string variable, whatever is the variable name, followed by a dot, followed by some method name. It can be any method name, and make sure you are using these parentheses. So this is the basic syntax of how do we call a method for a string, right? So now we'll be practicing some couple of these methods, right? So we have a very important method called trim. So as per the name itself says, it simply removes the starting as well as ending white spaces in a string. For example, I have a string, say greeting, right? And I have something like this. I am starting the string with a single quote, and I can use double quote also, as I was showing you. So if you see, it has got a couple of spaces here, and right, I am writing like this, hello. Again, it has got some more spaces. Right. Now, what happens is, let's say if I'm firing an API query through Cypress and I'm getting some data back, of course, with these spacing. And my job is now to remove these spaces, and I want to do something with this particular value. How can I do? Right. So for that, we have a very simple method in JavaScript, and that is what? Simply use greeting dot trim. That's it. And if you have any doubts, simply bring your mouse over here and simply tells you. It removes the leading and trailing white spaces and line terminator characters from a string. Right, so it is very simple to use. And how do I run it? Simply select this entire piece of code and click on this play button. Right, and we get this output, which is hello. And if you see, all the previous spacing and forward spacing are gone. So this trim is a very, very helpful method actually. Right, and we can chain couple of these methods. What do I mean by chaining? I can show you again. So this is going to, if I simply do this greeting.trim, it is going to remove these white spacing. And if I do something like this, after trim, I can chain one more JavaScript method, for example, to uppercase. So what this is going to do, it is very simple to understand. Firstly, it is going to remove all the spacing before and after spacing, and then whatever is the resulting string, it is going to convert that string into an uppercase. So if I'll run this piece of code, I'll clear the log by clicking on this button. I'll select this code and I'll click on the play button. See, this is the previous output from this code, and from this code we are getting this output, which is hello. And of course there is no spacing here, previous, trailing, and afterwards, right? So this is how we can chain multiple methods together. Okay, and yeah, one thing to note is, like, if there are spacing in the middle of a string, for example, if it is something like this, hello, then this space is not going to be removed from hello. So it only removes the previous as well as forward spacing. Okay, so let us learn some more string methods, right? So we'll be talking about index of. Okay, so if you see, again, all these methods have a lower camel case. So the first letter starts as a small case, and all the subsequent words starts with a upper camel case. Okay, so what is the meaning of index of? It simply tells where in a string a given string occurs. I can give you a very simple example. So let's say I have a variable called TV show, and this time I'm using double quotes to create a string. So I can have something like this cat dog inside my string. Now I want to find out what is the index of this particular word inside this string. What can I do for this? It is very simple. I just want to print it to the console. So always I'll use console.log here. So TV show dot index of. What I'm looking for, in this case, I'm looking for the index of cat inside this particular string. So if you look at this particular string, where does cat appears? It is in the 0th index, right? So how do I know? I'll simply select this, clear, and play. See, so cat comes in the 0th index for this particular string, right? So if I'll simply do this dog, now, what is the index of dog in this particular string? Right. Actually, whether you search for dog or whether you simply search for D, it's one and the same thing. So it's what? 0, 1, 2, and 3. So this should be the output. So if I'll clear the console, click on the play, see, this is the output. So it is very, very simple thing. right? So whatever string I'm passing here, it simply checks if this substring is actually present in this main string or not. So that is what is the meaning of index of. And yeah, it returns always. Yeah, one thing to understand is like it always returns the first occurrence. And if this particular string is not present, then it is going to return -1. -1 means it is not able to find out. Suppose if I'll type, let's say, hello, right? So I'm trying to search for this particular string inside this string. Is it present? No, it is not present. So what should I get? I should get -1. See, I get -1, right? So for people who are new, -1 looks little weird, but this is the way of JavaScript simply to tell us that this particular substring is not found in the main string. Okay, and we have some more very important helper methods. For example, slice. We just learned about trim, then we learned about index, then we talk about slice method. So as the name itself, so suppose, let's say I've got a cake and I want to eat it. Should I eat the entire cake? No, not humanly possible, right? I'll have to cut my cake into small slices or small pieces. So this is what the meaning of slice is. It slices or cuts one string into smaller pieces. So this is the meaning of slice. Okay, so how do I use it? It is very, very simple. Let's say I have a string called str1, right? And I can write like this. This is a very long string, right? Now I want to slice this particular string. How do I do? Simply I do str1 dot slice, and I'll write 0 comma 5. What it means? It means I'm starting from 0th index and I'm moving on till 5th index only. But this index is inclusive, this index is exclusive. What do I mean by that? I'll tell you. So it means 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. This should be the output. So 5 minus 1. So, okay, it is not going to print any output. Why? Because I'm not using any console.log. So in that case, sometimes using, if we are simply learning and practicing, this browser console is also very helpful, right? So see, this is the output. So if you see 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, it is going to print till 4. So 5 minus 1. So this 5 index is not counted actually. So this index is included and this -1 index is actually included, which is 4, right? So this is the meaning of slice. So what it is creating, it is actually creating a brand new string. So this, as I was telling you, strings are immutable. I cannot delete this string actually directly. I cannot even change this string. I can simply create a new string from this existing string. Now, since I'm not storing this string back into a variable, this new string is actually going to be lost. So ideally, if I'm trying to do something like this, I want to store it inside some variable, something like this. Let str2 equal to this. Otherwise, if I'll not do this particular part, then this new string is actually going to be lost. Why? Because I'm not giving it a name. I'm not storing it inside a variable. So this is something that is very important to know. Okay. So I hope this particular part is now clear. And we, it's not like I have to pass both of these index. So this is the starting index and this is the ending index. What if I'll pass just the starting index? Say str of slice 1. For now, I'll remove it. Str2, because we are just practicing, right? So if you see here, slice of 1 means start from first index and move on till the end, because I'm not passing any ending index here. So this is something very important, right? And if I do something like this, slice of 0, it means I'm actually creating a copy of the string. So 0th index. So 0th till the end. This means 1th index till the very end. And here, this time I'm specifically telling, I want from this index to this index, but this index is -1. Okay, so this is how we use, right? And then we have something called as a replace method, right? I know I'm talking about these methods, and once you will start using these methods in your real applications, that is when you'll actually gain a lot of confidence. So for now, at the end, I've actually created one small exercise for you when you'll start understand how do we create variables, where do we use them, right? So this is going to give you a lot of confidence. Okay, so for now, just try to understand. You don't have to cram all these methods, but once you start using them, right, in your day-to-day project work, then all of these concepts will automatically be remembered. Okay, so let us move on. Then we have something called as replace method. Very important method again. So see, in fact, JavaScript has thousands, in fact, hundreds and thousands of methods actually. It is not humanly possible for me to teach you all of them. I'm teaching you only those methods that are very, very important and relevant, specifically when it comes to automation testing. Okay, so this is about replace method. It simply replaces a string within another string. So the syntax is very, very simple, right? I do like this. Replace what string I want to replace, and what I want to replace it with. Right. So this is my way of remembering it. So I can give very simple example. So let's say I have a string, for example, say cricket is entertaining. Of course, I don't watch IPL, but I'm still taking this example. So let's say this is my string, right? And what I'm doing, I'm using this JavaScript, existing JavaScript method, which is replace. And what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to replace this word with some other word. For example, read this. Replace what? I want to replace this string. I want to replace with okay. For example, I do like this. Entertaining. So this is the part that I'm looking to search for within the string, and what I want to replace it with, let's say I want to replace it with this word okay, right? So this is about how do we do it. So I can do like this. I'll copy it and I'll paste it in the console. I'll hit enter. Yeah, see, so in this way, I'm actually replacing this particular word entertaining with this word called okay. So it is a very, very simple syntax. And yeah, one thing to note is like it replaces the first occurrence. If there are multiple entertaining words in this entire string, it is going to replace only the first one. So in order to demonstrate that, I can do like this. Let's say I have a string like this. Silly string, silly example, but I'm sure it is going to make this point very much clear, right? So this is about replace. So this is what first argument is what replace what I want to replace this word which is ha, and I want to replace it what with this one, right? So is it going to replace all of these occurrences because it has got three occurrences, right? So let's see. I don't even have to hit enter. So if you see, this is slightly grayed out. It means even without hitting enter, my browser is telling me what is the expected output. And if I'll hit enter, then it shows me the proper output. So it's, if you see, it has replaced the very first occurrence. And this is something which is extremely commonly used string method. Okay. So there are ways to replace all occurrences also, and we can use regular expressions. And that is slightly advanced concept. So I'm not going to cover it at this particular moment. Right. So another piece that I want to teach you is what? String concatenation. String concatenation. What do I mean by string concatenation? It means joining strings together. So I can give a very simple example. Let's say I have got a variable called age, right? And I'm giving these values, say 5 plus 4. Can anyone tell me what should be the output of this code? Is it going to be 9 or what? Can anyone please unmute themselves? Anyone? And it's okay, even if your answer is wrong. We're not here to judge. We are simply here to learn together, right? Anyone who can tell me what is the output of this code? Anyone? Or you want me to pick someone? So, okay, I can see Ganesh. Ganesh, can you please unmute us?
54.
54. Okay, that's a good answer, Ganesh. Yeah, Nick, you were saying something.
I said 9.
Okay, right. So, see, the answer will be 9 only when I'm using 5 and 4 as numbers. But notice that I'm using 5 and 4 as strings. So this is not a number actually. This is a number, but it is wrapped inside double quotes. So this number has actually been converted into string. So to demonstrate this, I'll show you very simply here. Again, I'll come to my browser and I'll simply type like this. See. So when I'm trying to add two strings using the plus or addition operator, so this plus operator behaves differently. If I'm doing like this, 5 plus 4, then it behaves as a mathematical addition operator and simply adds them. But when I'm trying to add two strings using the plus operator, right? So this plus is no longer a mathematical operator. It becomes a concatenation operator and it simply joins these strings, right? So that is why I see the output as 54, right? So this is a very important concept. So when we try to add two strings using this plus, it becomes concatenation. And when I'm trying to add two numbers, which are not strings, then it becomes addition operator. So this is what I mean by concatenation, means joining my strings together. I hope this particular part is now clear. So another simple exercise that I would like to give you, for example, let me have a variable called song. I think song is something I've already created, right? So if I do like this, I think I've already taught you yesterday, but never mind. So let's say I have this variable called song. And if I do something like this, song.to uppercase. So I'm actually converting this variable into an uppercase string. Now, can anyone, oh, sorry, it should not be song, it should be song1. Can someone please tell me what should be my value of song? Anyone? Console.log song1. What should be the output? Is it this one or is it going to be a capitalized string? Anyone? This is something that is actually going to clear your concepts. So, okay, I'll run this code and you can see. Yeah, I had to unmute someone. Yeah, okay. So, where was I? So if I'll run this piece of code, see, I get this same output, which is London calling. Even though I converted this string to an uppercase string, right? Why I'm getting the same output, which is song one? It is because I'm not storing it back into another string. And this new string is actually going to get lost. Why? Because I'm not storing this value. I need to store this value if I want to reuse it again. That is why we use variables in JavaScript, so that we can use that same value and maybe sometime later. Otherwise, if I just want to use any particular value just one time, then there's no point in creating a variable, right? Why do I create variables? So that I can use this value maybe sometime later in my code. Okay, so that's the whole concept. Okay, so this particular part is now very clear. And one more simple example, right? We just learned about this index of method, right? So if I'll give one simple exercise for this index of, say I have a variable called park, right? And I'm giving it a value, say yellow stone. Okay, now what I'm trying to do is I'm doing something like this: const index equal to this variable dot index of. So what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to find the index of this particular substring, this particular string inside this main string. So what should be the output? So do we have this tone variable inside this string? Yes, it has, but it has a small case, but it is a camel case, right? Uppercase. So what it is going to do, since it is a like a capitalized, it is a case sensitive match. In this particular case, JavaScript is going to return what? -1. Why? Because it is not able to find this string inside this main string. And if it was this stone, then it should have given what? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This should have been the output, right? So I hope this particular part is also clear, right? And then what I'm gonna teach you is like something which is very, very important. One of the most frequently used concepts in JavaScript, and that is what? String template literals. It is what? Literals. Yeah. What do I mean by string template literals? Right. I was teaching you yesterday how do I use backticks. Simply use the key above the tab key or below the escape key, and these are the codes that I was talking about, these kind of codes. And in string template literals we use these codes, right? So in order to explain you this, I can give a very, very simple example. Yesterday, if you remember, I was talking about I can use single quote inside double quote, or I can use double quote inside single quote, and it works fine. But what if I want to use single quote inside single quote? Not possible. What if I want to use double quote inside double quote? Again, not possible. And then if I want to join multiple strings together, it is not very easy, right? So using this template literals, I can do some very complex expressions. How I can give very simple examples. So I'll use backticks, starting backtick and ending backtick, and I can do like this. I count. I can write any string inside, and then if I want to join any valid JavaScript expression, in that case I have to use this syntax: dollar, curly brace starting, curly brace ending, and inside I can use any valid JavaScript expression that is going to be evaluated first, and then it gets joined with this particular string. Okay, so what I want to do, let's say I want to do 5 plus 5. See, what is happening is this particular part gets evaluated first, and then it gets concatenated with this particular string because of this backticks. So this is what is an simple example of template literals. So what are template literals? Template literals are those strings that allow embedded expressions. So if you see, this is an example of embedded expression which will be evaluated first and then turned into a resulting string. And we always use backticks. Always remember, we don't use single quote or double quote. In this case, we use backticks, which is usually above the tab key. And inside backticks, I can even use single quote as well as double quotes without any escape characters. Right. Now, I can give you one more example to make things a lot simpler. So I'll close this. Do I have an example? Okay. So let's say I've created a couple of variables. So I've created 4 variables. First name is Piyush. I have job as trainer. this is birth year and this is another year. This is not my actual birth year, but just for an example, right? Now let's say I'm creating a variable called str1, right? And inside this str1, what I'm doing is I'm creating a string with this single quote. So if you see, I'm using single quote instead double quote, and this is actually possible, right? And what I'm doing is, right, so I'm actually trying to add or concatenate multiple strings in this. So how can I concatenate? I was showing you earlier. I can simply use the plus operator. So I can do like this, okay? And I want to concatenate more strings. So in that case, I can simply do this, comma, space A, right? And then what I want to do is, what I'm trying to do, I'm just trying to write, I'm Piyush and I'm a trainer and this is my age. So this is what I'm trying to do. And if you'll start to understand that using this plus operator, it becomes actually a big mess. And that is how template letters is going to solve this issue for me. So firstly, we'll see what is the problem if we don't use template letters. So if I do something like this, okay, so year minus birth year, right? Again, I'm joining it with one more string, which is what? Years old, right? And then I'll do this again, plus I'll do this job plus single quote, this one, okay. So and then what I'm trying to do is, okay, so the problem is I've already used this str1, so I can use str2. So this is something that we've just learned, that if we have already declared a variable earlier somewhere previously in the code, I cannot use the same variable name. I have to use a different variable name, okay? So I can do like this. So const str2, and is it going to work fine? Let's see. I'll select this piece of code and I'll click on the play button. See, I get this output. I am Piyush, this 39 years old, right? So if you see, so there are some small issues with this. So I can, if you see, there's no space here, there's no space here. How can I put a space? Simply I put a space here, empty string here, plus first name, right? After A, I need one more space. I can put a space here. So, and yeah, this is something I want you to teach. So if you see, I don't want to concatenate this first. I want to evaluate this expression first, and whatever is the result, then I want to concatenate or join with this resulting string. So year is what? 2030. What is birth year? 1991. So if I want to subtract these two values first, and then I want to join with this. So now if I'll run this code now, I'll click on this. See, this is the output, which is fine. Now we'll do the same output, but using template literals now. How do I use template literals? Simply like this. I'll use backticks key, and if you see, I'll type like this. I am. So first name I was concatenating using plus, right? And then how I'll do? I'll simply use dollar and this. I'll copy it and I'll paste it inside. And then if I want to use a comma, I can simply put a comma like this, and then I'll write A, and then again I want to embed this particular part, right? So what I'll do, I'll copy this part and I'll again use dollar and this curly brace, and I'll put it here, and then I'll use space, years old, right? And then what I'll write, dollar chop with this exclamation. Have I done it correctly? Let's see. I'll clear this output and I'll run it. Okay, I have not used console.log. So yeah, if I want to print this value, I need to use console.log. Console.log of what? str3. So if I'll execute it, now if you see, I get the same output. But if you see, this particular code is a big mess actually. Why? Because I have to use this plus again and again. So it is not very easy, and it's going to make your code a lot ugly. So with this template literals, all we have to do is just use starting backtick and ending backtick, and simply use these variables or embedded expressions inside dollar and curly brace. So this is the meaning of template letters, and they are going to make your code a lot simpler and a lot cleaner. And this is one of the most commonly used features of ES6 or ES 2015. And this is something you'll see a lot in your Cypress automation frameworks. Okay, so this is about it. I hope you guys are understanding. Any questions? Anything you'd like to ask me, guys, before we move on? Right? Okay. So again, one more example. So I can simply do this. Let's say animal. Okay. I'm creating a variable called animal, which has this value called pig, and I'm creating one more variable called sound. Okay. And it has this value called oink. Right. So what I'm trying to do is, so I'm creating two variables. One is animal, second is sound, and now I want to join them using template editors. How can I do? Simply use these backticks, starting backtick, ending backtick. And then what I want to do is, I want to say pig sounds like this. So I can do like this, dollar this, and I'll put the value, which is what, animal, and I can say says, and I'll again use dollar and I'll use sound. So this is the output, right? If I wanted to use it without temporary literals, I would have to use a lot of pluses, right? So if you see, this looks a lot cleaner than using that plus operator that is for joining strings. So temporary literal is something that is very, very commonly used. And then we are going to talk about something called as more data types. So what we discussed till yesterday, we discussed a couple of data types, right? We talked about, so far we have learned about numbers. We've even seen a lot of examples from strings. Of course, we have learned about Boolean, which has just two values, which is true and false. Next, we are going to talk about these two data types, which is null and undefined. Okay, so let us talk about null and undefined. So again, they are very frequently used, so we should be able to understand them. So what do I mean by null? Okay, I'll like this. So null means intentional absence of any value, and null is something that has to be assigned explicitly. Okay, it cannot be done automatically. It has to be assigned explicitly. The simplest example of using null is whenever, let's say, I'm fetching a database query and I'm trying to fetch some value. Maybe some column does not have a value. In that case, it can return a null value, right? So it means what I'm trying to do is I'm filing a database query and it is returning me a value. So that is what I'm trying to say. Null has to be assigned explicitly. And then we have something called as undefined. So what do I mean by undefined? If I create a variable in JavaScript that does not have any value, it automatically has a value of undefined. For example, I can show you again. I do something like this. Let's say let year, and I'm not giving it a value like this. Let year equal to something. Maybe I give it a number, right? I'm not giving it a number. I'm simply providing an empty value. Now if I'll print the value of year, see, the value of year is what? Undefined. So undefined is something that is implicit, right? This is implicit. Null is something that is assigned explicit. Very, very important to understand. So we have to set null explicitly. How do I set null explicitly? For example, let logged in user equal to null. I have to give this value null explicitly. Otherwise, this value will never have null automatically. By default, it will take implicit, but null is something that has to be provided from outside. This is what I mean by explicit. Okay, so I hope this particular part is now clear. And then let us talk about random numbers. And this is something again which is very, very frequently used. Right? How do we generate a random number in JavaScript? There are so many ways of generating random numbers, but the most simplest and the most common way of generating a random number is what? Using the math object. So we have something called as a math object, which is like a built-in object in JavaScript. So what do I mean by this math object? It has a lot of utility methods that makes our life a lot easy. For example, if I want to find out the value of pi, right? If you go back to your childhood days, you must have learned something called as pi when it comes to circle, pi r square, 2 pi r, right? That pi I'm talking about. So how do I access this value? Simply, we can do like this, math.pi. It simply gives me this value. I don't have to hard code it like this. I can simply use math.pi. So this is like a very helpful utility methods, which has got some very, very helpful methods like pi and so many other methods, right? And then it has some more methods like round. And what do we mean by round? If I do like this, 4 comma 9, it is going to round this number to 4. Okay, it can also do to 5, right? And then I have one more, which is, let's say, apps. So suppose if I'm passing a negative value, let's say minus 100, and I'm hitting enter. So what this absolute is going to do, it is simply going to remove the negative part, right? It is going to remove this minus and it is going to convert this negative number to a positive number. So if you see, using this math object, we can use so many helpful utility methods that is going to make our life so much easier. And then if you remember, I even talked about in my very first class, we have something called as exponentiation operator, which is what it, I can show you again. So it means I'm trying to do 2 to the power of 3. So this is what 2 stars. If I'll simply use 1 star, it is simply going to multiply 2 by 3. But if I'm using 2 stars, it means I'm doing 2 to the power 3 or 2 cube. So same thing, The same thing I can do using math. How can I do using math? So in JavaScript, we have so many ways of doing the same thing. I can do like this, 2 comma 3. So this is giving me the same output, which is 8. So I can either do 2 to the power 3 like this using the exponentiation operator, or I can use this math utility object and use the pow method of this math object. So math is an object, and after this dot is the method. And these are the two arguments that I'm passing, 2 to the power 3. Now, nothing is right or wrong. You can go with this one or you can go with this one. That choice is completely yours. Okay. And then we have something very important method again, which is floor. So this is something that is more frequently used than any other method. So what does floor do? For floor, I can give a simple example. So let's say I have a value called like this. So floor is going to remove, or we can say chop off the decimal part. Whatever is there after the decimal part, it is simply going to remove it. That's it. So basically, if there is a fractional number and I want to remove the fractional part, I can simply use this math.floor and it is going to give me what? 3. So this is what it does. Right. Now, coming to random numbers, how we can generate a random number. That is what we are going to learn now. Okay. So how do I create a random number? We have something called as random method. And again, how do I use a method? Always use parentheses. So if I use math.random, we need to learn something and I'll write it for you. Math.random, it generates a random number between 0 and 1. It can be 0, but it will never be 1, right? It will always be lesser than 1. So usually it is always going to be a fractional number. So I can give a simple output. So if you see, math.random is going to give me this output, and if I'll run the same code again, should I type it again, or I can, in browser there's a better way to write it. I can simply use the up arrow key to use my last previously typed command. So if I'm pressing the up arrow key, I'll see the same. If I'll hit enter again, this time it is generating a new random number. Up arrow key again, another random number. So if you see, it is always a fractional number between 0 and 1. It can be 0, but it can never be 1, right? So see a couple of more examples. Sometimes it is closer to 0, sometimes it is closer to 1, but it can never be 1 actually, right? So this is how we can generate a random number between 0 and 1. Now, if my job is to generate a random number between 1 and 10, so this is my exercise. Generate a random number between 1 and 10. So this is going to be interesting. We have to use some couple of steps here. How do I do? So this is my step number 1. So I'll write like this: const step 1 equal to math.random. It is going to return a random number, and we have seen it can be any number. I cannot even predict. Okay, so this is going to return a random number. But what is the final output? I want a whole number, right, between 1 and 10, and it should not have these decimal parts. So we'll have to do a couple of steps. So this is my step 1. First step is use math.random, and the second step, what I have to do is I need to multiply whatever is the output by 10. For example, in this case, I'll multiply it by 10. So I can do like this: math.random multiply by 10. Whatever is the output of this math.random, I'm multiplying it by 10. Now if you see the output, up arrow key, up arrow key. See, this time, previously we were getting 0 point something, but since I'm multiplying it by 10, now see, I'm getting this output: 1 point something, 9 point something, 3 point something, 1 point something. So if you see, we are starting to get closer to our final output, but we are still not there. We still have this decimal part, right? Okay, and if in case we are getting a random number, let's say 0 0.0 something, even if I multiply it by 10, I'll still get the output as 0. But my end objective is I don't want a number between 0 and 10. I want between 1 and 10. So this is my step number 2, which is what? Multiplying the step 1 with 10. And step number 3 is what? I have to use remove the basically the decimal part. So I'll show you again. How do? I do math.floor, and then what I'll do, math.random multiply by 10. Now if you see, I'm getting output as 9, up arrow key. See, I'm getting 0 also as the output. Okay, I'm getting this 9, 0, 8, 1. So we are almost there, but still we are not 100% complete actually. Why? Because we are getting a random number between 1 to 10. No, we are also getting output as 0. right? So we are almost there. So step 3 is what? I have to remove that fractional part or the decimal part. How do I remove the decimal part? I was just showing you earlier. Simply use math.flow, right? How do I use math.flow? Inside I need to pass step 2 here, okay? And then what is my final step, which is step 4? Simply add 1 to it. That's it. Why I want to add 1? Because I can even get 0 as the output. So adding 1 will ensure that I'll never get 0 as the output. Okay, so how can I do? Simply do step 3 plus 1. And yeah, I have to remove the space because variable name should never contain a space in JavaScript, right? So what is my final output? I can do something like this. So rather than combining this in 4 simple steps, I can do like this. I can show you here. So math.flow, math.random into 10, and I can simply add 1 to it like this. So if you see, this time I'm getting 7, 8, 6, 10. I'll never get 0 as the output. Why? Because I'm actually adding 1. So there's no way that I can even get 0. Right? So always I'll get a random number between 1 and 10. So this is how we can generate a random number between 1 and any number. Whatever is the number that we want to generate, simply multiply that number. Here, I want to generate a random number between 1 and 10. So multiply this by 10. If it is 1000, or maybe 10,000, whatever is it, just multiply by that number. And this concept that you can use. So this is how we can use or basically generate a random numbers in JavaScript. And this is something that is very, very frequently used. Okay. I hope this particular part is clear. Any questions, guys? Or we are good? Okay, so it looks like no questions, which is fine. So I'll show you something more. So let's say I'm using this number. So 99 is a numeric number. Why? Because I'm not wrapping it in double quotes or single quotes. So type of is going to give me what? The data type, and that too inside single quote. Okay. So what is this data type? I was showing you somewhere here. I have written these data types. Yeah. So number is one data type. Then we have string. How can I get string? If I'll simply use type of, and I'll pass inside double quote, let's say 5. Even though 5 is actually a number, but since I'm wrapping it inside double quotes, it is giving me the string data type. So this is about string data type. And if I do something like this, type of, I can do like this, true. I'm getting this data type, which is Boolean, which is this one. Similarly, we have null and undefined, right? So today we have actually learned so much about strings, right? And this is something that is extremely important and very frequently used. Now, coming back to our exercise. So this is an exercise that I want you to have a look. Okay. And in case if you're watching this video, in case if you're not attending this live class, I would recommend pause me, read this particular exercise and try to attempt it yourself first. Initially you might get stuck, but this is very, very simple, and I'm going to show you the solution now. Okay, so what is this exercise all about? There are two persons, one is Rahul and Aman. They're trying to compare their BMI, which stands for body mass index, which is related to health, right? And then how do we calculate the BMI? This is the formula. I have not created it. This is something that you can Google it, right? So whatever is the mass of that person in kg, so mass is in kg, this is the weight actually, right? And then whatever is the height of that person in meter, and what do we have to do? We have to multiply that height with itself, right? So this is the formula of BMI, right? Height times height. So what I want to do is I want to store this Rahul's and Aman's mass and height in some variables. I want to calculate both of their BMIs using this particular formula. Okay, and then I want to create a boolean variable which is Rahul higher BMI. I want to find out if this person's BMI is higher or this person's BMI is higher. That's it, and I simply want to log it in the console. So this is what I want to do, right? How do I solve this particular thing? And yeah, this is another way of creating a comment in JavaScript. Initially I was showing you we can use a single line comment like this. So this is a single line comment, and if I'll hit enter, this is no longer a comment, right? So using double quotes, sorry, using these double forward slashes, I can create a single line comment. And if I want to create a multi-line comment, I can use like this, forward slash, single star, and this. I can write any piece of code here, and it is going to be converted into a comment only. So this is something which is very good if I want to create multiple line strings. But for the single line strings, we can simply use this two forward slashes. Okay, so coming back to this exercise, I'll come here. So what do I want to do? I want to create, basically, I want to store their Rahul and Aman's mass and height into variables. How can I do that? Let me use like this: const mass Rahul, and what's the weight of Rahul? Okay, it is 78 kg. I'll write 78, and then similarly I can create one more variable called mass Aman, and what's his weight? His weight is 92 kg. Okay, I'll store it here. Similarly, what I want to do, I want to store the height of Rahul and I want to store the height of Aman. Okay, how can I do? Simply, okay, so let me have Rahul's height also. Const height Rahul equal to 1.69. 1.69. Why? Because it is in meter. Okay, and then similarly I'll create one more variable called Aman. So this is an interesting exercise wherein you learn some important concepts actually. Okay, so these are the two variables that are for Rahul. One, we are storing the weight of Rahul, and second variable is used to store the height of Rahul. And similarly, these two variables are used to store the weight and height of the second person. Okay, now how do I calculate the BMI? Simply, I can use this particular formula, which is what? Mass divided by height times height. Okay, how can I do that? It is very simple. Const, I can write BMI Rahul. Let me calculate the BMI of first person initially, and then I'll calculate the BMI of the second person, and then we'll see is if the BMI of this person is higher or this person is higher. Okay, so BMI Rahul is what? Mass of Rahul. I want to divide it by its height. What is the height of this person? This one. But I want to multiply it by itself, right? So how can I do? It is very simple. I can do like this: star star 2. So this is where we can use exponentiation operator in real time. I want to basically do what? I want to multiply this height by itself. So there's one way: either I can use height Rahul multiply by height Rahul, one way, or either I can simply use this height Rahul squares. This is one way of doing BMI, right? And then what I can do, I can create the BMI of the second person, which is Aman. So I can write like this: BMI Aman. Similar syntax: mass of Aman divided by height of Aman. So this time I'll use the second syntax. So instead of using this star star times 2, what I can also do, I can do like this: height Aman multiply by height Aman. Okay, so this is how I can create the BMI of the second person. So I hope you can understand. So this is one way, this is the second way. Totally your call which one you would like to go with. But in this particular case, this is something that is extremely important that I want to teach you. That is operator precedence, right? So what do I mean by operator precedence? If you see, in this particular case, this part can get executed first. Should this part get executed first, or this part get executed first? Ideally, operators get executed from left to right. So in this particular case, this part should get executed. But this is not what I want. I want this height to be multiplied by height first, and whatever is the output, then I want to divide it by mass amount. In that case, I can change the operator precedence by using this. And this is something we have learned in our childhood days. In India, we have something called as BODMAS, wherein B stands for brackets. In US or some other countries, we have something called as PEMDAS, right? So P stands for parenthesis. So whether it is BODMAS or PEMDAS, so this is the same concept that I'm trying to teach you. I want this particular part to get executed first, and then whatever is the output, I want to divide it with this one. Okay, so this is something, and I'll simply print out the BMIs of these two persons using BMI Rahul and then BMI of Aman. Okay, I'll select all of this, and yeah, if I'll simply select only this particular part, it is not going to work. Why? Because these variables will not be included in this. So if I'll simply run it like this, see, I'm getting this error: mass Rahul is not defined. JavaScript does not know where is this mass Rahul, height Rahul, and all those things. So if I want to run it properly, I have to select all of this piece of code. So I'll clear it out, and if I'll run it now, see, this is the BMI of Rahul, which is 27, and the BMI of Aman is what? Which is 32. So we can clearly see that BMI of Aman is more or higher than the BMI of Rahul. Okay, so now if you see, I have created these variable names, and they are quite descriptive. Of course, you can use different variable names. Nobody's stopping you. But the most important thing and the best practice in JavaScript is always use nicely descriptive names like the ones that I've used, so that not only you, even if a third person who come and see your code, he should be able to understand, okay, this variable name clearly tells me I'm storing the weight of this Rahul. if this person in this variable is storing the height, this variable is storing the weight, and again this height. Okay, so this is a very good practice. Also, you might have observed I could have used let also here, right? But const is better in this particular case because I'm not going to change these values. They're going to be fixed because weight of Rahul is not going to change, right? So I was telling you, always use const, never use let. Always use let only when you think that the variable name is going to change. Okay, so as a best practice, always try using const first, and if const doesn't suit, then only go with let. Okay, and in this particular line, technically we don't need parentheses, but they actually improve the clarity. Now I'm going to show you something interesting now. So I'll open Google page and I'm going to type something called as JavaScript operator precedence. This is what I want to show you. So we have this website by developer.mozilla, which is MDN. Okay, I want you to see this particular website and I'll scroll down till the table section. And if you see here in this particular website, it is actually showing you the operator precedence, right? So this is the table, right, that I was talking about. So inside this table, you see this has got the highest priority. Precedence means the priority. Grouping means this bracket. So this bracket has the highest priority. So this part gets executed first. Doesn't matter what is the priority of this operator, right? Otherwise, multiplication and division have a higher priority than addition and subtraction. This is something that you must have learned in mathematics, right? So grouping has a higher precedence. And if I look, where are addition and multiplication operators? See, these are multiplicative operators and they go from left to right. So it means both the multiplication as well as the division operator have the same priority of 12, which is slightly lower than this one, which is what? Grouping or using this parenthesis, right? So that is why this part gets executed first. And then if we talk about this multiplicative operators, it executes from left to right. What do I mean by left to right? It means if we have a division operator here and then if we have a multiple operator here, so this part gets executed first, means left to right first, and then whatever is the output, then it gets multiplied by 2. This is the meaning of left to right. So you should be able to understand this. You don't have to cram all of it, right? But this is just a handy reference in case if you get confused, right, which operator gets executed first. Simply open this MDN website, which stands for Mozilla Developer Network, and then inside it you can see what is the priority of these operators. So this is something that is extremely important, right? So I hope this particular part is now very much clear. Now, if we'll come back to our exercise, so this is something that we have done. So we have stored both of them. We have calculated both of their BMIs. I'll close this terminal. Yeah. And then this is the third part of the exercise, which I want to do what? I want to create a Boolean variable, which is this one. And I want to contain this information, whether Rahul's BMI is higher or Aman's BMI is higher. But from the output, it was very clear whose BMI was higher, right? So if you see in this terminal, right, okay, it has gone. So I'll simply run this code again. I'll run it. Yeah. So if you see the BMI of Aman is higher. Sorry, it is not higher actually. Rahul's BMI is quite higher in this case. Right. So BMI of Rahul and BMI of Aman. So this is what the BMI is. Now I can use a comparison operator. What do you mean by comparison operator? I can show you here. In this, before actually doing the console.log, what I'm trying to do is const, I'll create one more variable called Rahul higher BMI. It's the same variable that is actually given in this exercise, Rahul higher BMI. And then I want to calculate. Visually, I can see whose BMI is higher, right? But here, I want to calculate actually. Okay, so by mistake it is 92. Why? Because I removed this star. Now it will show me the correct BMI. Okay, so coming back to this question, what I want to do is BMI Rahul is higher or BMI Aman is higher. How do I find out? Simply do this. Use the greater than sign. So if the BMI of this person is higher, then it is this is like a comparison operator and it always returns either true or false. So if this is true, actually it will show you true, or else it is going to show you false. So I'll simply print it out in the console. And yeah, one more concept that we have learned in this particular case is inside console.log we can pass infinite number of arguments. We can pass just one argument. So far we have seen so many only one argument, right? And we can pass multiple arguments. As of now we are passing 3 arguments here, right? So we have actually using, we can say we are printing the value of this variable, and this variable. All we have to do is simply separate them by comma, and I'll run all of them. I'll clear the console and I'm going to print it. So if you see, this is the false. Why? Because BMI of Aman, is it higher than, sorry, this is my mistake. It should not be BMI of Aman, it should be BMI of Rahul. So is BMI of Rahul is higher than the BMI of Aman, then it is something that it should print. So let's see. It is false. Why? Because BMI of Rahul is 27 point something. Aman is what? 32 point something. So naturally this one is higher. So BMI of Aman. Right. So that is why it is giving me false. So we have learned so many important concepts here. We learned about exponentiation operator. We learned about using brackets, right? And the operator precedence. We also learned about this comparison operator. And then we also learned about using multiple arguments in console.log. And most importantly, we actually got some confidence as to how to solve some simple problems like this. Because in automation, you'll not be required to find out, just maybe replace a string with something. You'll actually get real life problems like this. And if you have JavaScript knowledge in place, you should be able to solve any kind of JavaScript problem. So this is a very simple problem that I designed specifically for you guys so that you can understand how we can actually solve this problem in JavaScript. Right. So this is all about foundation building class for you. Right. So with this, we have learned about strings, and we have actually learned some primitive data types. Let me do a very simple, you can say, recap for you guys. So we have learned there are 5 primitive types. One is number, then we have string, then we have boolean, then we have null and undefined. And booleans are what? They are simply true and falsy values, and they are just two, right? So we can change the variable types in JavaScript, which is kind of weird. So what do I mean by this? If I'm storing this value 78, I can even store a string also in this variable later on. In Java, this is not possible, but in JavaScript, we can pass any value, basically any data type value. I can store a string, I can store a Boolean value. Ideally, I should never do it as per best practice, but JavaScript is not stopping me. So, but I should not use it. Okay. And then what are strings? Strings are pieces of text or simply strings of characters. How do we use them? We simply wrap them in quotes. Either we can use single quote or double quote or backticks. But we should be consistent in how we are using the strings. And then how do we find the data type of any particular variable? We can simply use this operator called type of, and we have to type in lowercase. I think I've shown you somewhere here, right? How we use type of operator like this. It has to be typed completely in lowercase. And yeah, this O is also in lowercase, right? So this is how we use type of operator. And then if I want to add one string with a number, right? Since one is a string, actually, it is not going to be added. It is going to be joined or concatenated. And another important concept that we also learned is strings are indexed. It means every single character in string has a particular index, 0, 1, 2, and so on. And indexing always starts from 0. So if the length is 7, the last index will always be 7 minus 1 or length minus 1, which is 6. And every string has a property called length. How do you find out the length of a string? Like this. Whatever is a string, either you use a hard-coded value or a variable name followed by this dot followed by this length. And notice that length is a property. It is not a method. That is why I'm not using these parentheses here. Okay. So length is a property. And for properties, we don't use parentheses. Okay. And strings are immutable in JavaScript. And we also learned so many string methods like index of, we also use replace, we use trim, and so many other methods, right? Of course, I know we have covered so many important things, right? But all required from your side is just a little bit of more practice. And then we also learned about math object, and we learned how do we generate random numbers, right? And also we also learned what we learned about template literals, and finally we did one live exercise, which is something that has actually given us so much confidence. By doing some more exercises like this, you'll get a lot of confidence that JavaScript is not difficult. It is very simple, right? And anyone who has the willingness to learn, he can learn JavaScript, right? So with this, I think we can end today's class. But before that, I really want to ask you guys, you have any questions, anything you'd like to ask me?
Can you hear me on the screen like yesterday?
Shiva, again, your voice is not very clear. I don't know. There is some issue with your mic.
Not only with the go to meeting because I have no problem with my team.
I don't know, but yesterday somebody also like told you that there is some issue with your mic. I'm barely able to understand. What I would suggest is like if you want to ask me something specifically, you can either drop me a WhatsApp or you can give me a WhatsApp call also. That is totally fine. Okay. Any more questions, guys? Maybe Aarti, Seema, Nick, or Ganesh. No questions, guys? So you'll get this recording. Please do practice.
Has a fresher, like,
Yes.
if, yeah, I'm telling, has a fresher, you are going little fast.
Sorry, please
Can
come
you,
again.
has a fresher, na? You are going little fast. Can you, like, little bit slow down?
Yeah,
If
definitely.
possible.
Definitely. So
Yeah.
naturally, I'm a little fast talker actually. So yes, sometimes people do tell me that I have to slow down a little, right? So I'll try to remember this, and I'll try to keep my pace a little slow, right? And that is also you can say revising all these concepts what we have covered so far.
Yeah.
Okay, and if
Yes.
you have any doubts, you can of course ask me in the class. You can ping me on WhatsApp. You can ping on the WhatsApp group, and of course I'm there and approachable. You will never see that, I'll not reply you. That is not going to happen. I'll reply you for sure.
No, it
Any more
was
questions?
understandable, but little fast it was, so that's the
No,
reason I
that's
told.
totally fine. So I guess
Yeah.
you are a completely beginner in JavaScript, right? What's the good name?
Yes. Gaurav.
Gaurav. I would suggest please change your name from Nick to Gaurav so that it will become easier. Okay,
Yeah.
right. So I think we can still take maybe 1 or 2 more minutes. So let us have a quick introduction round. So Gaurav, can you please tell me a little bit more about you, a little bit more about your background, so that I can get to know you a little better?
Yeah. Currently, I am working as a manual tester
Okay.
and an automation tester, and I was working with Selenium with Java
Okay.
previously,
Okay.
and currently my organization is asking for Cypress, so that's the reason I am here.
Okay. 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 Right. So, how much experience do you have in total in testing?
4.3.
Okay, 4.3. So, and do you have some, you can say, hands-on experience with Selenium with Java, or is it like just a higher level knowledge that you have?
2 years of hands-on experience in Selenium with Java.
Okay, right. 2 years of experience with Selenium with Java.
Yeah.
Okay. So, if you have some experience in Java, then transitioning from Java to JavaScript should not be very difficult because if you have some basic knowledge in place, then Java and
I
JavaScript are
think
somewhat similar.
only variable names I think so are different, right?
Not only the variable names, there are so many other differences also that we're going to cover as we'll progress. For example,
Okay.
in my later classes, I'll be teaching you a very important concept of promises that is exclusively with JavaScript. And it is a very hard to understand topic because I saw so many YouTube videos and so many stuff, but I could not understand promises. But hopefully, I'll be making this particular concept very much easier for you guys. Step by step, I'll break down for you.
Okay.
Yes. So,
Mm,
Gaurav, I can just tell you that by the end of this particular course, you will be very comfortable working with Cypress.
okay. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So I would like to hear from you, Seema. Can you hear? So okay. So in next 1 or 2 classes, daily we'll talk to 1 or 2 people, and I'll try to get to know them a little better. So Seema, can you please introduce yourself?
I'm working as a manual tester right now, and
Okay.
my main testing scope including the database testing, API testing, and I
Okay.
have done course in Selenium with Java, but
Okay.
I rarely got chance to work on that automation part. In my
Mhm.
company, they are working on the Cypress with the JavaScript. That's I enroll in this course, and I
Okay.
have around 6.7 year of experience.
Okay. 6.7 years of experience.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually,
That's.
what was bad
Mhm.
happened to me in my last two companies, I was selected as a senior automation tester, but they
Okay.
never start automation, and
Mhm.
that's why I was not able to get hands-on on the Selenium automation. Like
Okay. Okay.
whatever I did by just I learned by myself,
Okay.
practice and all.
Right. Right. Right.
Here in
If.
this company, they are working on the Cypress automation, and they want us to learn it as soon as possible. So that's why.
Okay, okay, that's fine. Yeah, so see, it is very important to understand which background you guys are coming from. If I'm able to understand what exactly knowledge you have, right? Like majority of you, I could see that you are manual testers, right? Like Gaurav was having some 4 years of experience, and Seema, you are having some 6 years of experience. Both are into manual testing, and eventually you are moving from Selenium to Cypress, right? And they are completely different automation tools, right? So it is going to take some time, right? So no training is like a magic actually, right? My job is to clear all your concepts and to give you lots of hands-on exercises, but ultimately it depends upon you, your willingness, your dedication, how much are you willing to practice, right? Of course you'll make a lot of mistakes sometimes. Like if you see, even while I'm teaching, sometimes I do mistakes, make some small mistakes in writing the code actually. That is very normal. So even if at my experience also, if I can also make mistakes, right? So you guys can also make a lot of mistakes, and that is something that is a part and parcel of your journey. Okay. So again, as I was mentioning to Gaurav, Seema, so
Mm.
once we are done with this particular course, I'm pretty sure you'll be a lot confident with Cypress. Okay. So just try to follow what I'm trying to say, right? Try to practice, right? And you'll get these recordings. Any questions, guys? Or we are good to go?
So will you provide the notes what you wrote?
Okay, notes. I have never planned to give you notes. Why? Because anyways, you're going to get these recordings, right? So I can give you notes specifically if you're, let's say, any particular person who is wanting to get these notes, right? I can share this particular file with you. Maybe you can ping me on WhatsApp and I can just drop you this particular file as it is. Your call, right? And luckily, Shiva, I was able to hear you perfectly this time. Not sure what you
Oh,
did,
you
but
can.
Yeah, this time she's not having any flickering issue.
I think it was like went to by default with the speaker. I have to change that setting too.
okay, okay, right. So if you want to ask me anything, Shiva, you can. We are done with the class now. You can ask me
So
anything if you
like
want.
just for me, like
Sure.
I was working, but I got laid off. I was into playwright. So now like I have some interviews coming on with the Cypress,
Okay.
but here like I am trying to attend, but I don't know like what question they'll ask. I'm just like reading online thing and doing.
Unfortunately, we are not God, so we cannot predict, right? What questions they're going to ask, right? So all I can say is like, if you're going to give some interviews in Cypress, just learn as much JavaScript as you can and as much Cypress as you can, right?
Okay.
Yes. So the more you do practice, right, the better you'll get. So there's no shortcut for this. The reason why I'm
And
super confident in
yeah.
Cypress and JavaScript is because I've actually done so much of hands-on practice. I've actually spent so much late nights also. It is not easy to tell you how much hours I've spent actually learning Cypress and JavaScript. That is why I am here where I am.
Okay. And just will you give us in the end like Cypress interview questions and all? Like one
Sure.
thing what I'm
Yes.
struggling is, you know,
Hmm.
Cypress, you know the tool, right? But the
Correct.
interview nowadays they're asking you to write a code, right? That's when
Correct.
you feel you know
Exactly.
everything. Like
So
I
see,
need to
writing
know
code is
how
something
to.
that you learn only with experience. And that
Okay.
experience doesn't come in just maybe 30 days or maybe a month or so.
Okay.
You're getting what I'm trying to say. So, in order to get really good with Cypress, you will take at least 6 months to a year. I'm not sugarcoating things for you guys. I'm making it very real and very honest for you. In
Okay.
my case, it took me at least 5 to 6 years to reach that expertise level. I'm still learning Cypress, even after 5 or 6 years. Can you expect to master Cypress in just 1 or 2 months? No, right? So,
And
learning is
even
like,
like
yeah,
suppose they will ask us, right, like find the missing number or find duplicate and all, like
right.
I want to know like how to write that logic or how we if just practice means you'll forget, right? Like
You see, building logic is something that comes with experience. Nobody
okay.
can teach you that. The more you'll write the code, the more you'll make mistakes, the better you'll learn. So that suppose if you, today if you're writing bad code, tomorrow you will actually understand this is the bad way of writing the code and how not to repeat the same mistake that you were doing earlier.
Okay.
So in order to be good, you have to be bad first. We cannot jump from first gear to fifth gear, right in the car. Right. We have to move sequentially, correct? Exactly. So Shiba, how much experience do you have?
I have like 5 plus,
Okay. So
but
completely
I
from
just
India?
yeah, no, I did like automation also, but it's like
Okay.
not in one role. I did Selenium, then I'll go
Okay.
to Playwright. Last
Mhm.
project was Playwright. So I was working for a service-based company.
Okay,
So they
okay,
just keep switching to project to project.
okay. That's fine. Right. Okay.
Now,
So
like when I'm in the market, right? But people like ask Playwright, Cypress, and Selenium.
exactly.
That is my one thing. I'm so confused. Which one to
Which one to go
like?
with first? I would
Yeah.
suggest if you're a beginner, go with Cypress. Why? Because Cypress is a lot simpler than Playwright. That is from my
Okay.
experience. Playwright is little tricky actually. It is it is very advanced. I won't say it is lesser than Cypress. It is very much advanced, but I think we should start from the basics actually. Start with some automation tool that is a lot simpler, so that you get
Okay.
some basic overview, basic hands-on experience. Then you can move
Okay.
from basic to an advanced tool like Cypress.
Yeah. And a lot of people ask Cypress also more than Playwright here. I see. Like
It depends actually. Where are you from, Shiba, by the way?
I'm in US here in Michigan.
Okay. You're from USA. All right. And okay, so I see one more person. So Ganesh. So if you don't mind introducing yourself, so that I can get to know a little better.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, my name is Ganesh Wakde. I'm from Pune, Maharashtra, and
Sorry,
I have a total.
I would love to speak in Marathi, but I cannot speak it. I can only say
Yeah,
that Mala Marathi nahi.
no worries, no worries.
Uh,
Yeah, I have a total 6 years of experience in the software testing. I do have
okay,
experience in the automation as well in
okay,
Selenium Java. The since the lot of companies are asking for Cypress and Playwright tools, so that's why I
okay.
thought and right now I want to switch into another company, so that's why.
Mhm.
And since now I'm getting the calls, lot of calls for Cypress and Playwright tools, so that's why I'm here to learn this tool.
Okay. Yeah, so this is something that it's the right choice actually, Ganesh. Why? Because Selenium is something that is a evergreen tool. I won't say it is bad or something, but it is kind of saturated now.
Yeah, right.
Everybody, every
Not
person
that
will
many
write
people
Selenium in
saying
the
that.
CV.
And these tools are like efficient than the Selenium Java, so that's why the maybe the client or companies are adopting these tools and they
Right,
want us to work on those tools.
correct. So you are on the right path. So what I would suggest is like master Cypress first. Learn in and out of Cypress. Right. Of course, attend this particular training, entire training. I'll teach you a lot of things. But in 1 or 2 months, how much you can learn actually? This is limit, right? So of course, you can go into Cypress documentation, right? Cypress conducts so many webinars. You can actually master Cypress. Maybe you can give yourself a deadline of let's say 5 months or 6 months. Of course, you can continue and switching your jobs also, but learning can never stop, right? And once you master Cypress, you can move on to Playwright also. Then in that case, your resume would be fantastic because now you know both Cypress and Playwright, which are the top two trending tools in the market at this moment. Not Selenium, but Cypress and Playwright.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yes. So it is so glad to know you guys. Thank you so much for taking out the time. Right. So I feel that is good for
So
now.
please,
Any questions?
if you don't mind, can you share that code through GitHub link or something like?
Which code? The
uh,
code that I'm writing here.
yeah, right.
Okay. In that case, what I would suggest is like you can drop me a WhatsApp or I can just send you this particular file right in the WhatsApp channel.
I
So
mean, on the
anybody.
daily basis, if you could pull this code on GitHub so that we will
Mhm.
get it early from the
Okay. GitHub would be something. See,
repository once it
you
is.
might be aware of GitHub, but there are so many other manual testers also in this particular training. They don't even know how to use GitHub, how to use push and pull and all. So let us try to make
Mm-hmm.
things as simple as possible for everyone. You and I know GitHub,
Okay.
but not everyone knows GitHub. Getting
Okay. Okay.
perfect.
Okay. No.
Yeah, so tomorrow will be our last class for this particular week, and then we'll start from Monday. But I'm really enjoying, and I could see that you guys have the zeal to learn, right? So just continue with this zeal, and we'll actually learn a lot in this entire journey. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Just keep on learning. If you have any doubts, please feel free to ping me. Okay?
And
See you
please,
guys.
one more thing. Actually, we need some theoretical documents as well, like on the JavaScript or on Cypress.
Okay.
And we also wanted to know. I mean, what kind of questions in interview they will ask, and all these
Okay.
things.
See, regarding interview
You can
questions,
provide those, right? I mean, we
yes.
will be prepared
Definitely.
for
So
themselves.
regarding notes, I can provide you, and regarding interview questions, I'm at the in this particular course, I'm yet to prepare that video. right? So this is something that I have recently added. In the previous batch, I have not added in the previous batch, but in this particular batch, I'll be sharing some maybe 1 or 2 videos specifically talking about most important interview questions, specifically when it comes to JavaScript. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. So by the end of this course, right? So it is almost 1.5 to 2 months from now, right? So I'll be sharing that video with you. It is right now in process actually. Okay.
Okay.
I'm actually compiling the list of questions and I'll be creating a video and I'll be sharing it with you. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. So
Thank
I'll
you.
see you guys tomorrow. So good night. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.